These are the best compact flagship phones under $1,000 now: iPhone 16, Pixel 9, and Galaxy S24. There are also two Galaxy S24s, one for North America with Snapdragon and one global with Exynos. I spent weeks and months on these phones and will thoroughly review them to see which one is better deal. I'll talk about the camera, battery life, performance, design, display, and everything else you need to know. I'm more a scientist. I use iPhones for work, Pixel for app development, and Galaxy for personal use. And I like each brand for its own use case. The Pixel 9 is heavier than the others because of its larger battery capacity. Its battery capacity is 4700 mAh compared to 4000 from S24 and 3560 from iPhone 16. This does not necessarily mean it holds more battery power since the chipset is not super efficient and the screen is also larger. I ran a battery test on these four phones and they are in two categories. S24 Exynos and iPhone 16 are very similar from a battery perspective, and they lasted almost 4 hours and 40 minutes of screen time in my battery test. On the other hand, Pixel 9 and Galaxy S24 Snapdragon got a similar 5 hours and 50 minutes screen on time in the test, and they still had 10 to 20% left before the other two ran out of battery. After battery, the camera is the most important thing for me. The iPhone and Pixel have an ultra-wide and wide camera when taking photos and videos, while the S24 has a 3x telephoto lens. I said multiple times, but it's my favorite focal length on a phone camera because the proportion you get on a 3x telephoto lens are much closer to reality than any other lens, including 5x telephoto lens. And the optical quality S24 can produce is not comparable to the digital crop and AI from Pixel and iPhone. Also, a 3x telephoto lens lets you zoom further into subjects. It is super cool to have this option for architecture photography or wildlife videography in the cities. Regarding ultra-wide and wide lenses, it is hard to say which one produces better pictures. The main difference is color science and how they handle shadows and highlights. iPhone 16 has the highest contrast among them. Pixel 9 has a visible magenta, and S24 photos are softer with lifted shadows. When it comes to colors, Pixel has the most neutral one. The iPhone 16 has more contrast, and S24 is the most vivid. In macro mode, even though the iPhone 16 is improved over iPhone 15, I still have a hard time taking macro photos from a close distance. You can check the full camera comparison that I made after this video. Display is another factor you should consider when choosing between these three phones. Galaxy S24 has a LTPO display, which means the refresh rate is variable. This does not automatically make the display of higher quality, but it merely serves as a way to save more battery life. Pixel 9 has the best display of the batch. It is 120Hz display and is the latest M14 displays produced by Samsung that we should expect to see on S25. iPhone 16 is probably the worst display. It is 60Hz and not 120Hz, and therefore it feels a bit lower quality when you use it, even though from the quality of the display it has an excellent touch sample rate and as bright as other two. The other thing to consider is Apple's dynamic island versus the punch hole on Galaxy and Pixel. To be honest, I got used to all of them, and I don't think there is any difference. Apple has the dynamic island because of the Faceunlock and all hardware they need to put there. On the other hand, both Pixel 9 and S24 have ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. I prefer that method over the Faceunlock. Design-wise, I love the colors on base iPhones, but that's just my personal preference. Pixel 9 is a bit bigger than previous generations and it is borderline compact. It is also rather heavy. Samsung is the most feature-rich phone and compact. It is lighter than the iPhone 16 and Pixel 9 and it's very comfortable to hold and use in one hand. The frames of these phones are very similar. The only difference is that iPhone 16 has a camera button, which I don't find helpful. However, you can check out my iPhone 16 review to learn more about it. But the iPhone has a valuable button, the action button, and it is one of my favorite things on a phone because I can do many things, like silencing my phone without turning it on and off. The camera positions are different. iPhone 16 and Galaxy S24 has vertical camera styles, while Pixel 9 has a horizontal one. Also, the S24 has 3 cameras, one of which is a 3x telephoto lens. All phones have USB-C charging ports thanks to EU. They all have similar charging speed of 25 to 27 watts. So there is no fast charging. Apple iPhone 16 has a 25 watts wireless charging speed, which is neat, while the other two have 15 watts. I'll put the link to the chargers I use and MagSafe compatible cases in the description below. All of them also offer reverse wireless charging. Another thing you should consider is the antenna. Unfortunately, in my test, S24 Exynos is usually the weakest. If you look at my previous videos, you will notice that in some rural areas I had a problem with it, and it is even weaker than S24 FE when measuring the RSRQ and RSRP of the devices. Then it is the iPhone 16, which also loses antenna occasionally when I'm underground compared to Pixel 9. You can also see that in a day in the life video that I've done comparing Pixel 9 and iPhone 16. I would say Pixel 9 is solid. I never had any problem with it during my test, and I always got enough reception on 5G in Vienna and other European cities. The Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 and Qualcomm modem on Galaxy S24 are classed by themselves, so I always get the best speed on them, and I doubt there is a better antenna for a 5G connection out there right now. Performance is another factor here. The Galaxy S24 has a Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 and Exynos 2400. The Pixel 9 has Tensor G4 produced in a Samsung foundry, and Apple has the latest A18, which is Apple Silicon Mix. I ran two benchmarks to compare these four phones. On the Antutu benchmark, the S24 Snapdragon got the best score of 1.72 million, iPhone 16 got second place with 1.67 million, third place was the S24 Exynos with 1.63 million, and finally Pixel 9 got 1.08 million, which is much lower than the rest of the pack. Basically, the Tensor G4 and Pixel 9 got a score similar to the Pixel 7, and Google did not improve the performance of their phones in 2 years. To test the graphics, I ran a stress test from 3D Mark. This test runs in a loop of 20 times. In the test on peak performance, which is the first loop, Galaxy S24 Snapdragon got the best score. S24 Exynos and Apple were similar, and Pixel 9 got the least. For sustained performance, the Apple iPhone 16 got the best score in the last loop, followed by S24 Snapdragon, S24 Exynos, and Pixel 9. In general, over several tests I conducted, the iPhone 16 always stayed cooler than the rest of the pack and had better thermals. The second best thermals are for S24 Snapdragon, then Pixel 9, and the S24 Exynos had the worst. It is common to pass 40 degrees Celsius, 104 Fahrenheit during video calls or taking videos in 4K for Exynos. But it's important to note that you don't have any problem with any day-to-day task. For example, even though Pixel 9 is weaker in this test and doesn't run games on the same frame per second as others, when taking pictures and videos, I notice it processes them faster since Tensor has better dedicated AI cores. It would have been better if Galaxy S24 had also focused on efficiency rather than pure peak performance, but I understand that would anger some people. So which one is better? The answer is obvious. Galaxy S24 Snapdragon is even without price consideration. It is an actual OP phone this year. It has the best performance and reception. It is the lightest compared to the others, and with a telephoto lens, the S24 series can take better pictures than Pixel 9 and iPhone 16 if you have to zoom into the subject. For the other three, I would say it depends on your taste. If battery life is your primary concern, Pixel 9 offers a better battery life and a better screen than the rest, but with a weaker performance and is also heavier than the others. If you want to stay in the Android ecosystem, the S24 Exynos is your other option. It is lighter than Pixel, has a telephoto lens, and better performance, but due to that, it is the hottest phone among them. I would be a bit worried about the battery over time. It is not a disaster some generations of Exynos were, but there is room for improvement. I know the iPhone 16 gets a lot of hate in the comment section because of the price and 60Hz display, but I genuinely like the base iPhone series. I love bold colors like pink, and the phone is very reliable. The battery is not the best, but it stays cool the whole time, and I never had overheating issues with the phone. Nothing specific about the phone makes it great, but if you're an iPhone user, it is an excellent overall package. But if you are an Android user, you can get something better by spending less money, and most likely the 60Hz display will be a deal breaker for you. If you like this video, you can watch the camera or battery comparison between these phones next. Thanks for tuning into TechMo, and I will see you in the next one.